So I want to say congrats on the new album, and I also want to ask you if you could describe it overall.
Oh, I don't know. For us, our records are always a little bit diverse, maybe more than some other bands because we all four have a lot of input. So it really just depends on, who has the most ideas coming in to make a record, and it can pretty much shape the sound of the whole record. As a whole, I think this sounds a little bit more laid back, maybe a little bit more chilled out than the last record, but still has some of the big kind of choruses and the big melodies.
I know you guys have gotten, a lot stronger with every release. Every release is getting better and better and better, and you honestly are one of the most engaging bass players I've ever seen perform live. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you personally have grown as an artist from the first album now to this fifth album.
Yeah, when we first started out, I didn't even know how to play the bass at all. I was just kind of learning, and I didn't really want to be a bass player. I kind of wanted to be a guitar player or anything else, so I always just tried to play guitar on the bass, and that's kind of what gave me my own style, and people have always told me that like I sound different than most bass players because it doesn't really sound like I'm playing the bass. But really, I think creatively I always, knew what I was going for, but the only thing that's really changed from album 1 to 5 is, technically being able to do what I always heard in my head. And just, getting better like we all did.
So what about the end? The bass line on that is amazing, and it's really tricky.
Yeah, the end it was definitely a tough one. I wrote it in the rehearsal space, and the guys really liked it, and I was so mad at myself for even playing it for them because I knew that, once they heard it and they liked it, that I was going to have to play it every night. So I'll definitely just keep my back to the audience when I play it.
Speaking of family, you do a great job, you and your brothers and your cousin, keeping it all together, and you're a very solid group, and that's hard for a lot of people to do who aren't related. Is it tough for you to work with your family all the time?
If it is tough for me to work with my family, it's because of who they are, not necessarily because we're a family. We're all kind of difficult to be around if you're around us enough. But I don't know. We don't really have anything to compare it to, so it's hard to say if it's easier or harder.
In New Zealand, I know that you couldn't go anywhere without hearing Sex on Fire. You couldn't turn on the radio, you couldn't walk into a bar, and I'm wondering if Come Around Sundown has a quote-unquote Sex on Fire on the album.
I don't know, maybe. I think Pyro could maybe have that kind of success, but I don't know. I'm terrible at picking singles. I never know what is going to be big or what's not going to be big. I mean, I can usually just tell what's not going to be big. And I don't know. It might not.
Well, we won't hold you to it.
Yeah, totally.
What's on your iPod right now? What are you listening to?
Eesh. I'm listening to the new Deer Hunter record. There's a band called No Age that I like a lot. Obviously Beach House and a ton of stuff. Just a lot of new stuff, really. It's Bob Seger. Yeah.
I guess you already talked about this a little bit with Pyro. Do you have any message to your Kiwi fans?
A message to the Kiwi fans. I wish you were closer so we could come more often. We've always had a great time there. I always have a good feeling. The last time we were there, I think we spent a week there, and we all just kind of fell in love. Like I said, if it was closer, we'd definitely be there every year at least, but it's a long flight, and Nathan takes way too much Xanax on that kind of fly time, so he's out for like a month.
We have 2 questions left,
Okay.
and then we're done. I know you've been asked this a million times, so my apologies in advance. I did not write this question, but I want to talk about the pigeons.
Briefs. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I want to talk about the pigeons.
Yeah. What do you want to know about the pigeons?
I want to know if that was truly the most awkward moment you've ever had on stage.
Not really. I mean, the thing that people don't know about the pigeons is we kind of knew that it was going to happen before we walked out. And I've heard, there's obviously all these conspiracy theories that like they were drunk, they had their stuff packed up before they went on stage. That's why we did have our stuff packed up before we went on stage because a dead pigeon had fallen when the first band was playing, and it had happened to both bands before us. So our management knew that it was going to happen to us, but I just didn't want to. They told me that we could have canceled it before we even walked out, but I didn't want to do that in case they didn't. And they did a lot in 3 songs. We were supposed to walk off. I mean, everybody knew about it. It's funny, like all the conspiracy theories are crazy, but like everybody knew. The promoters knew about it. The people that worked there knew about it. And if it happened one time, we were supposed to walk off. And it happened a lot of times. And then finally we did walk off. And like I've said before, it's a lose-lose for us. You can either walk off and look like, divas or, prima donnas, or you can stay up there and be known as the band who, played 20 songs, got covered in pigeon shit. There would have been pictures everywhere. So it would have been embarrassing and stupid either way. And we just chose the route that, had no evidence, that had no pictures of us.
Well, y'all know that it's good luck to get shat on by a pigeon.
Yes.
So I think you've got good karma coming your way for a long time.
I hope so. I feel lucky.
This is the last question, Jared. Peter Hook, you've mentioned that you're a fan and you've been influenced by him a little bit. Can you talk about him? Have you checked out Unknown Pleasures? What do you think of it?
I haven't heard Unknown Pleasures, but Peter Hook is, I would say, definitely the biggest influence on me as a bass player. I've always just connected with the way he writes. He's all about melodies, and his melodies drive a lot of the songs, and that's what I try to do. And when you're first starting to play, he sounds like he doesn't write stuff that is too hard to play, which I enjoy. I always like to learn other people's bass lines, and I always found it kind of easy to learn his bass lines, which is great. You don't really have to make stuff too difficult for it to make a song better. And yeah, like I said, you just have to look up to someone who can play an instrument that's 95% of the time in the background, who can take it to the front of the band and make it, a leading force in the melodies of the band.
Excellent. We're done.
Sweet.